Thank you so much for watching Landumc Goes There. Please subscribe and hit the like button and the bell notification button. Frenzy is a 1972 British thriller film that was directed by Alfred Hitchcock. It's based on a 1966 novel that's called Goodbye Piccadilly, Farewell Leicester Square by Arthur LeBurn. The movie stars John Finch, Alec McCowan, and Barry Foster. The storyline for the film goes that London is held in the grips of a serial killer whose modus operandi is to kill his victims by strangling them with a necktie. When short-tempered ex-Royal Air Force officer Richard Blaney, played by John Finch, discovers his ex-wife murdered, Blaney becomes a suspect because an eyewitness saw him close to the scene. Forced to go on the run, Blaney attempts to take refuge with his best friend, a fruit merchant named Bob Rusk, played by Barry Foster. However, Rusk may in fact be the necktie killer himself. After a pair of unsuccessful films depicting political intrigue and espionage, the famous Hitchcock returned back to the murder genre with this movie. The narrative makes use of the familiar Hitchcock theme of an innocent man overwhelmed by circumstantial evidence and wrongly assumed to be guilty. Hitchcock originally announced the project in March of 1968. Filming began in July of 1971, which was done in London after many years of making films in the United States. The film opens with a sweeping shot along the Thames, Two-Tower Bridge, but the interior scenes were all filmed at Pinewood Studios. Much of the location filming was done in and around Covent Garden. This was an homage to the London that Hitchcock knew as a child. He filmed several key scenes showing the area as the working produce market that it was. He was aware that that area's days as a market were numbered, and he wanted to record it as he remembered it from his childhood. There are a number of classic set directions in the film, particularly the long tracking shot down the stairs when Babs is murdered. The camera moves down the stairs, out of the doorway, with a rather clever edit just after the camera exits the door, which marks where the scene moves from the studio to location footage. It then tracks across the street where the usual activity in the market district goes on with patrons unaware that a murder is occurring in the building. The part of London that's shown in the film still exists more or less intact, but the fruit and vegetable market no longer operates from that site, having relocated in 1974. The buildings seen in the film are now occupied by banks and legal offices, along with restaurants and nightclubs. While doing the shoot, Hitchcock's shooting schedule allowed filming to begin at 8 o'clock in the morning and finish by 6 p.m. every day while they were on location in the Covent Garden area of London. One day during shooting, Hitchcock was in the middle of finishing a take when a union representative showed up to inform him that it was 6:15 p.m. and that they had to stop filming. Hitchcock became outraged. He was furious, and he threatened to walk off the set and the film entirely and move it all back to Hollywood. After this occurred, no more union representatives were allowed on the set at all. Several of the cast members were somewhat unhappy with the lack of authenticity and Britishness of some of the dialogue. John Finch used to send notes to Hitchcock's secretary with suggested improvements. Hitchcock was not very pleased at this at all. He told him, "I don't mind if you make a few alterations, but I didn't say you could try to rewrite the whole script." However, though, many of Finch's script amendments were used in the final cut of the movie. The film critic, Roger Ebert, loved this movie. He gave it 4 stars. This guy never liked anything. He states that Frenzy is a return to the old forms by the master of suspense, whose newer films have pleased movie critics, but not his public. He felt that this was the kind of film that Hitchcock was making in the 1940s, filled with macabre details, strange humor, and the desperation of a man convicted of a crime he didn't commit. The only 1970 details that are different is the level of violence and the nudity. It's almost as if the director, at age 73 at the time, was consciously attempting to do once again what he did better than anyone else in the movie business. Some of the great comedy scenes in the film are the awful meals that the wife of Inspector Oxford served at dinner. He usually has trouble cutting it, and most of the time he's not really sure what it is, as he is constantly trying to throw the meal away without his wife's knowledge of that. The shocking opening scene where an audience is gathered on the banks of the Thames and they notice a nude body floating up to the edge. This is a pretty amazing shot, and it really grabs your attention because this is a beautiful young lady that's in the river, and she's completely unclothed with the exception of a necktie around her neck. The stunt lady that did that is an English girl named Roberta Gibbs. She had an amazing career as a stunt actress in the British market. But in 1981, she got tired of getting bruised up in the roles that she played in films, and she decided to open a clothing store, the name of which is Bertie Golightly. She came up with the name from her real first name, nickname, of Bertie, and the Golightly came from the fabulous movie Breakfast at Tiffany's, where Audrey Hepburn plays Holly Golightly. This boutique that she opened has thrived, and it has had international clients as it sells new designer styles and pre-owned dresses by big-name designers. The next time you watch Frenzy and you see that opening scene, realize that if you're ever in London, you could go buy some clothing from the girl that's face down in the river. Take a look back at this classic Hitchcock favorite. He never disappoints. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.